Hi everyone, welcome to another writing video, and this week we're going to talk about titles and endings. They're kind of like best friends. So usually when I first get an idea for a new story, I actually like to come up with a title. And the reason I do that is because I feel like my title can really, inform my whole story and keep me on the right path. For example, my first book was called Ira Crumb Makes a Pretty Good Friend. So I spent the whole storyline trying to show how Ira Crumb was a pretty good friend. My next book was Ira Crumb Feels the Feelings. And you know what I did there? I wrote a story all about how the character Ira Crumb feels the feelings. He goes through every emotion you can imagine. Because the thing is that we all get stuck as we write. So if you can constantly refer to the top of your page, it can be really helpful in terms of reminding you what you're trying to do with your story. Some people might start their manuscript using the word untitled, but the reason that I don't like to do that is because I think that means that I don't know what my story is about. And if I don't know what my story is about, you can bet that it's going to be really, really, really hard to write. And even if I was able to finish that story, I can bet that you as the reader would have no idea what the story was about. So I guess the next question is, how do titles and endings relate? If your purpose of your story is clear throughout, the beginning and the middle, it will be clear in the end. For example, if you wrote a story called Ira Crumb Makes a Pretty Good Friend, by the end of the story, we should learn why Ira Crumb makes a pretty good friend. I know what you're thinking, Naseem. I want my ending to be a surprise. So what you could do in that instance is have a working title. And a working title is a title that's not final. It's a title that you're playing with as you write, and you can refer back to it whenever you get stuck. But by the time you finish your story, you throw that title out and you come up with a new one. And that new title, that final title that you choose, can be a little less obvious, a little less on the nose. A few months ago, I was coming up with a title for my latest picture book that's coming out in spring 2022. And the title that I used when I started writing was Baba Buzorg's house. Now, you may not know what the word Baba Buzorg means. It means grandfather in Farsi. My mother is from Iran, and that's what I would call my grandfather. And the story is about a little girl who's just lost her grandfather, and she's walking through his house remembering all the things that she loves about him. But I thought this title was a bit too obvious. I mean, if you know what Baba Buzorg means. Essentially, I called it Grandpa's house, and that didn't seem like a very artistic title to me, really. It seemed like kind of an obvious, really boring title to me. Why would I want to read a story about a grandfather's house? My editor and I came up with all these other titles. Let me show you what they were. You get the gist of it. But none of those titles spoke to me. And so I went back to my story and I started rereading it over and over and tried to find, different themes in it that I could pull out. And one of the things that kept calling to me was this sour cherry tree. We see it at the beginning of the story and we see it at the end. And I thought, wow, it's poetic. It's a bit mysterious. You don't quite know what the story is about, but maybe it's a bit sad because of the word sour. Maybe. More importantly, the title just felt beautiful to me. And I felt like this is a beautiful story about a relationship between a little girl and her grandfather. So I went with that. You can see how your title and your ending can work together. Another thing to remember is that endings don't have to be that hard. And here's the thing, your endings don't have to be a surprise. They can be a surprise. Say you're writing a mystery, a surprise ending might be really good for that. Or if you were writing a book about a surprise party, maybe a surprise ending there. But for the majority of endings, all your readers are looking for is to be satisfied. Everything that should happen should be wrapped up by the end. Now, if you're writing a detective novel, your readers may actually want to predict the ending. They want to know they're right. They want to know they figured it out. They want to feel like the detective. So don't think that you always have to surprise your readers with your ending. Sometimes you can be just pretty basic with them. So I hope that this video has made titles and endings seem a little bit less scary. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.